go status?
T-minus 30 seconds.
The morning mayhem.
TPA script running. Second stage LH2 securing started.
Ready for launch?
Ready to embark on a national security mission for the United States of America.
News Talk 92.
Range green. Igniters armed. Rofi ignition.
KBU.
5, 4, 3, and liftoff.
Standing by to go to the partial thrust.
The morning mayhem is on.
Partial thrust mode now in the port booster as expected.
The morning mayhem is pre-recorded and for entertainment purposes only. News Talk 92 KBEU, the news and talk of South Arkansas. Good morning, everybody, here on this Thursday morning as we are working ourselves into a weekend, baby. Yes, we are. And it's definitely right up upon us as well because being Thursday, tomorrow being Friday, and tomorrow being the first Friday of the month and the first Friday of July, because July is the first day. It's the first day of July. And the first Friday of the month, which means we got First Friday Marketplace, which also leads into, of course, 4th of July weekend, which will be on Monday. So, yeah. And that means offices will be closed and things like that on Monday, too. So keep that in mind as you're going around doing things and trying to do banking stuff and all that, especially if you're getting paid there on the first of the month. And you're like, well, I just have to wait till Monday to go ahead and get that deposited. Unless you're lucky enough to be able to have direct deposit. Well, whatever business you think you're going to be doing on Monday ain't going to be happening because pretty much all your government offices, they all going to be closed. The market's closed, the banks are closed, all your government offices will be closed in observation of 4th of July day. Not weekend, but day, since 4th of July falls on a Monday. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're going out and doing everything, and they will do that. So there's that. Oh, we went to court yesterday. And we found out what happened to the puppy dogs, Princess and King. And so everything, it's in my hourly news that we went out there back in March and kind of had a recap yesterday of what happened that led up to this and everything. And here, let me jump back over there because we had it there somewhere. What it was is back on Easter. The Castleberries were out on vacation, and while they were out of town and on vacation, up the street from them, because this was over on Cherokee, so kind of give you an idea that it's the Cherokee edition over there in Fairview, which if you're familiar with, where Cardinal is and all that, the shopping center and stuff. Okay, well, it's the residence, the subdivision back behind Cardinal Cafe and all that. So these dogs, Princess is the dog, and then King is Princess's offspring. So I think I'm saying that right. So then, is what happened is that while they were they got out, and so when they got out, they went out and they kind of got into some trouble and stuff. So it was the residents of Cherokee Subdivision. As we wrote, have been terrorized by 2 pit bulls over the past 10 days. The first incident involved the dogs entering a residence through a pet door and killing the house cat on April 15th. The second incident occurred on April 26th with a Labrador retriever being attacked and severely injured. It was on Friday, April 15th, 2022. CPD received a call from a resident at the Cherokee Subdivision who stated that the 2 dogs had entered her home and killed her cat. So after the April 15th incident, the dog owners were cited and told the requirements to keep a dog deemed as a vicious breed within the city limits. So then on Tuesday, April 26th of 2022, the victim stated that she had heard the dogs barking in her backyard and went to go outside and saw 2 pit bulls attacking her Labrador. She chased the pit bulls off and got her Labrador in the vehicle and to the animal hospital. She said the Labrador had its left ear badly torn and its scrotum had been ripped open. The victim of the prior attack stated that this is the same 2 pit bulls that had entered her residence through the doggy door and damaged her furniture and killed her cat earlier this month, being April. So both stated the dogs lived at the second or third house on the left on Caddo, and it was a tan residence. And so that's kind of where, that's kind of the sum of it and everything of what happened. So then it had a court appearance in March, and that was basically just to show up and how do you plead? And so, you say guilty or not guilty. So the plea was not guilty, and then they set another court date for a hearing to come back. And what this was basically just a hearing over criminal charges. Now, the way it was explained is because this was in violation of an ordinance, not a state statute, that this is a little different. So there's like no jail time or anything like that. There are hefty fines, but there's no jail time. And Judge Randy Hill was hearing this case, and it was his first time in Camden. So, welcome to Camden. It was his first time here in Camden. He was filling in. I believe he's out of Arkadelphia. So he resided over the case to hear everything. And then we had prosecution come up. That was City Attorney Michael Fry, and he was representing the Castleberries. And then Shakonda Flanagan, she defended herself, and so it was her and her son that came up there, and so they basically just was I'm trying to think of the name of the word when you're self-representative, and pro se, isn't that it? When you're pro se, pro se. I'm trying to remember all these fun Latin words here. Law has so many non-English words. So anyhow, so Shakonda Flanagan was pro se, and then Michael Frey was representing the Castleberries. So everybody got sworn in, and then they proceeded to talk about what happened that day, which we just recapped there, and what that came down to. And so with that, though, we had some people sworn in, some witnesses and everything, and leading up to all this was Animal Control Officer Jennifer Pinson. Came up and testified about what she saw when she got called out, and also runs H&P. It's H&P. Is it H&P? I think it's H&P. Hang on, let me double check because I don't want to get it wrong. Because she runs an organization that does really, really awesome stuff with dogs, so they don't have to be destroyed. H&P Animal Alliance. That's it. I had to think about that for a second. So yes, H&P Animal Alliance, and they run a really good program. And what they do is they help with getting your animals taken care of. Make sure that you're a responsible pet owner, and help out with set up things like getting your dogs tagged and getting them spayed and neutered, and can even help with getting them microchipped and everything. And then the other doggies that nobody wants, they actually have a program where they ship them out, amazingly enough. So they can send them to people who want dogs in other states. Because the way it was explained to me is that for some reason up north, they've done a really good job about curbing stray dogs. Because they spay and neuter their pets up there. And for some reason in the South, not so much. So in the South, we got a lot of dogs running around. And up north, there's a shortage of dogs. So somebody kind of put this together and was like, hey, you know what? That would make a really neat program. There's people up north who want dogs, but there's not enough dogs to go around. And we got more dogs than we know what to do with. We should ship them up north. Yeah, that's a great idea. So that's kind of what they do. They find homes in other states for these dogs that nobody wants down here. So, she gets up there and she testifies and talks about what she saw and everything, and explained to Shakonda Flanagan, that what she needs to do in order to keep these dogs in the city limits, and gave her a pamphlet, some packets and things like that had information and everything that would lead back to what was that would lead back to what she needed to do, and that there needed to be a proper facility set up, like a kennel, a pen, or something for the dogs to reside in, so that way they wouldn't get out and do things like this again. So that was on the first try. Then the second one was when the dogs escaped again because they got out of the kennel, up through the top, over the side and everything, and then went over and attacked the Labrador. So that's where that was at. So then it came down to, typical stuff like failure to vaccinate, and didn't do it like through a vet or something like that. Supposedly you could go to Atwoods, and I was going to do that and go over there and check that out, but then I got distracted because I had to come back here and do some stuff, and then I had to go to El Dorado after I got done with that. But I need to go over there and verify that because I'm kind of curious about that. So supposedly you can go to Atwoods and you can get vaccines and stuff like that. I don't know. I've never seen them over there. So I'll have to go check that out and see what that's all about. But supposedly you can do that, but it's not recognized by the state, so the state doesn't recognize it because there has to be a certain type of control over the vaccinations when it comes to rabies and things like that. So if it's not handled properly, it's not effective, which means that if it's not done by a vet, it's not controlled and it's not handled. They can't trust that it's been handled properly, and so they don't recognize it. It's from what I've come to understand. So the city deems these animals as a vicious type, but just based on the breed. So based on their breed, they're considered a vicious type, and there's regulations and such when it comes to dealing with this type of breed in the city limits. So when all this happened, the Flanagan took the dogs and sent them off to the county. And then that way, then they built a pen, got everything ready, and then brought the dogs back. But the thing was that the requirements for the pen, I didn't get the dimensions, but it at least had to have a slab, and the poles had to be mounted into the slab, and then the roof had to be affixed to the poles. So that way everything just kind of, was definitely attached to each other. So that way there was no possible way for a jailbreak. But the top was not attached properly to the poles, which allowed the dogs to jailbreak, and they got out, and which allowed the second attack. So you could get these kennels over at Atwoods too, which I've seen those. It's just basically some fencing, and you make it square, and there it is. It's open, so you can get those. Other things was that let's see, and then were there, and then went over and did all that stuff there. And while that was going on, Princess and King escaped and then attacked the Labrador. And then now the dogs have been. The other problem is that they were trying to take Princess and King to other organizations, see if organizations would take them in and help out. But the thing was that once they've been reported as biting or getting involved with other dogs and such, nobody will take them because they see them as a risk. So the thing that was on the table, the offer that was on the table, was to have the dogs destroyed. So they started looking at other things, because it's like they didn't really want that to be the first option, was to destroy the dogs. But Michael Fry had a valid point, which was, well, if you send the dogs off somewhere else, let's say you send them 2 counties over or so, do they have the ability to be able to come back home, where they think home is? And Officer Animal Control Jennifer Pinson was saying, yeah, they can. And then Fry was like, okay, so let's say we shipped them to Alaska. Could they find their way home to Camden? And she says, yeah. So that was pretty much done with her. So they were trying to figure out, based on that, if they did send the dogs away, like they sent them somewhere else, and because they went down to Elliott out in the county, and let's say they escaped again, would they come back to Camden? And that's what Pinson was saying, is that, that possibility is there. They would see, that address or that house being their home, and that's where they would trek it back to. So then we got our next witness up there, which was Officer Stephen Carnell, and he's with CPD. He got up on the stand. He was saying that he was out and about and everything, and he was responding to radio traffic that he heard about what was going on over there, and he heard Woody's voice on there, and then ended up meeting up later with them in regards to Reynolds being over there with the Labrador being attacked and the dog lost an ear. After the attack, Carnell saw a pen in the backyard on Caddo. Pen being, like a dog kennel or something, not like a pen, just sitting on the ground. But they went back over there and noticed that there was a kennel-like pen in the backyard over there on Caddo, and it's believed the dogs were kept there, but escaped and attacked the Labrador. Part of the roof did not make contact with the pen, leaving a gap for the dogs to escape. So that's where that's at. All right, hey, I got to take this break. We'll pick this up on the other side. News Talk 92, KBEU, the News and Talk of South Arkansas. News Talk 92, KBEU, the News and Talk of South Arkansas. Getting all that loving out the way, baby. Oh, yeah. There's definitely some sympathy going on, and some compassion as well yesterday in court. So the outcome was quite surprising, though. Was not what I expected either, because the offer that was on the table was to have the dogs destroyed. So what did that come down to? That's what we're talking about just before the break, kind of everything that was leading up to this moment, and who we had on the stand. And first we had the one with the Castleberries had their house broken into by these dogs. The way it just sounds, saying their house was broken into, these dogs broke into the house. Like they targeted that house for some specific reason. Like, I don't know, they had the best kibbles and bits or something. I don't know, but it's just kind of weird because I looked at the map and I'm thinking, I don't understand why the dogs would, go that way versus, there's easier targets like, right there across the street. And instead, they leave Caddo, they go up Cherokee, and they go up a few houses. So, I mean, they really had to work for this, and then get into the backyard, go through the doggy door, but couldn't get through the doggy door, so they had to tear up the doggy door. So you would think, the first attempt when they try and get in there is like, nope, can't fit. Oh well, and then move on to something else. But no, these dogs were determined to get in there, and they ripped the door up and everything to trim and all that. And then once they got in the house, they tore the house apart. They damaged the floor, they damaged the ottoman, they damaged the glass table, and they did some other damages there in there as well. There was a pretty hefty amount of damage that was done that they were looking for some restitution on getting that resolved. But anyhow, we had Camden Police Department Officer Carnell up on the stand and was talking about how he responded when he heard traffic on the radio. And it was Woody's voice that he's responding to. So after the attack, Carnell went back over to Caddo and what he believed to be the dog pen that the dogs were kept in, that they escaped out of. But the roof didn't make contact with the pen, leaving a gap for the dogs to escape. So Connie Castleberry got up there and testified next, and she was explaining, they were at the lake and everything for Easter weekend, and a neighbor sent a text asking about these dogs in the backyard because they used to have dogs, but they don't have any dogs anymore because their dog had passed away, and was wanting to know what's up with these dogs. And so she had texted back saying, get the dogs out of the yard. Those aren't mine. And so by that time, the dogs had made it in the house. And from the way Mrs. Castleberry explained it, she said that that the dogs had gotten into her house and they chased her 18-year-old cat around the house. And then eventually caught the cat, and she said they just mutilated the cat. I mean, there was stuff everywhere. It was bad. So she said at first she didn't want to press charges, and she had never had ever made contact or anything with the neighbors, with the Flanagans, because they're over there on Cherokee, and they're or the Castleberries are over on Cherokee, Flanders are over, or Flanagans are over on Caddo. And, the distance and stuff, you kind of, interact more with your neighbor, like more next door across the street with you. So anyhow, that was the first time they had ever made contact or knew of each other's existence, was after this happened. But she didn't want to press charges. But the neighbors had pushed her to press charges. The neighbors were talking about how, they've had run-ins with these dogs before and that they were scared and they got kids and they're worried. The dogs hadn't really attacked any people, or at least not yet. And that was kind of the point they were making. So far, these dogs have attacked other animals. But it's a matter of time. What happens when it's no longer animals and it becomes somebody's kid? Then we're having a completely different conversation. And that's a conversation that nobody wants to be having. So that's why they were saying these dogs need to be destroyed. And that was pretty much the only solution that was on the table at this time, was these dogs being destroyed. Now, keep in mind, the judge, Judge Hill, didn't want these dogs to be destroyed. And of course, Flanagan didn't want the dogs to be destroyed. And Pinson, the animal control officer, didn't want the dogs to be destroyed. So everybody, has got some compassion here because it seems to be the only option that's on the table. And this is where we're going with this. But, everybody's really having a hard time because they just don't want to see an animal be destroyed. And especially King. King's I think 7 months old, still a puppy dog. And, King still has a lot of potential left. Long life ahead of him. And, 7 months old, that's, when you think about it, it's like, that's a real shame, having to put a dog down like that and just still a puppy and just for bad behavior. But it comes down to a matter of, so far, we've got property damage and we've got one pet that's been killed, and then we've got another one that was severely injured to the point of needing life-threatening surgery. So what do we do? And so far, that's where we're at. So we just got euthanization on the table. That's what I was saying. The outcome of this was quite surprising. So anyhow, Miss Castleberry's going on about how the back door was broken into. They came through the doggy door. She didn't want to press charges, but the neighbors were pushing her, saying, look, this is the one and only chance. You're not doing this just for yourself, but you're doing this for the neighborhood. The neighborhood's terrified. We're scared. And we need something to be done because this wasn't, just a one-time thing. This has been going on for some time. And even I had an incident with the dog, with Princess, which was kind of weird. I mean, the dog was outside. Some lady came up. I don't know why they picked me because, I know why, because Mikey was outside. So this lady comes up because they were banging on my door. I was inside. Mikey was outside. And she had the dog by the collar and then was banging on my door to tell me that she didn't know where this dog belonged, but the dog was like attacking her. Okay. Mental image. She's got the dog by the collar, right? She's at my porch and she's saying that the dog is attacking her and she doesn't know who the dog belongs to. Hold that image because I got to take a break because that doesn't make sense. We'll be right back. News Talk 92 KBEU, the news and talk of South Arkansas, out of the bottom of the 6th. And I left you with a mental image. We'll have to rebuild that there because you may have forgotten about it after, sports and weather and all that. You're like, what were we doing? Because sometimes it happens to me too. I can relate. All right, so before the break, we were talking about how this lady showed up on my doorstep with Princess and was going on about how Princess was attacking her while she's holding Princess by her collar. So now you got this mental image, okay? So there's Princess standing there like a dog does, right? And then the lady who is banging on my door saying that the dog is attacking her is standing next to Princess, while Princess is just standing there doing what a dog does, looking up at you and panting. And you're like, this dog is vicious and it's attacking me. And you're looking down at the dog and you're looking back up at her and you're like, and trying to piece this together. Wait a minute, it doesn't make any sense. Okay, so before I continue on here, full disclosure, I try real hard not to get involved with my stories, but it seems like, when you in a metroplex of 6 million people, that's real easy to do, is not get involved. Well, when it comes to a town of less than 10,000 people, it seems like that's a big challenge, trying not to get involved with your stories or being a part of your story. that you're doing. And so I am a neighbor in the neighborhood, and I live across the street, and I personally have had no issues with any of this, and that's why I didn't understand. It's like, well, wait a minute, I got a dog too, and my puppy dog is always outside when I'm not home, so that way she's got free reign and able to do what she needs to do, and I keep her water out there. I used to keep dog food out there with her, but then the ants keep getting into it, so she gets the water outside, and then she can come in and eat. And then that way she's got fresh food and it's not infested with ants. So there's that. And I'm thinking, well, if they went after the Labrador Retriever, why did they make an effort to go up Caddo, around Caddo, and then up Cherokee, and then go up there when they could have just like went right across the street and, like not on my dog. And I don't know. I can't tell you because I'm not a dog psychologist and I don't know what they're thinking. But anyhow, getting back on this lady. So this lady comes out of nowhere. She's going on about she doesn't know who the dog belongs to, and she's just walking. She's walking, doing her exercise and stuff, and leaves the dog with me because the dog is attacking her. And I'm like, uh-huh. And so Mikey's looking at me, and I'm looking back at Mikey, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, what in the world is going on over here? And so I recognize the dog. I don't know the dog's name, but I recognize the dog. I'm like, I know you. And so I took dog back across the street where I'm thinking the dog belongs, because I'm pretty confident that's where that dog belongs. And so when I'm walking back across the street, Princess just happens to lean down and was gnawing on the top of my feet, and not in a vicious way, just in a playful way. You know how you can tell the difference between when an animal is playing, how they bite you. They don't really bite down on you, but they kind of they grab you with their teeth, because that's what they do. They can grab things. They don't have opposable thumbs, so they have to use their paws and usually their teeth their mouth to grab things. It's playful, and that's how I took it. It was playful. It startled me at first because I'm not really familiar with this dog, and I don't know what this dog is doing. But then once I realized what the dog was doing, the dog was being playful. So then I'm wondering, it's like, well, did that lady think that maybe the dog was wanting to play, and the dog is doing to me? Maybe that's what the dog was doing to her, and then she took it as because she didn't know the dog either. So maybe she took it as an attempt to attack her. I don't know. I didn't see it. All I know is I got her word to go on. So this is all happening. I'm trying to process all this while I'm taking the dog back across the street. Bang on the door. And one of the kids answers. And I don't know who it was. It was just one of the younger gentlemen there at the house answers. And I was like, "Is your dog?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Your dog got out." And he's like, "Okay." And that's pretty much the end of that. They identified that's their dog, and I said, okay, well, some lady brought her over to me and said that the dog was attacking her, and I'm like, I don't know. She didn't ask for medical attention. She didn't look like she had been bitten or bleeding or anything like that. She just said that she was walking and this dog was attacking her. Take it for what it is. That's all I know. So that's my involvement in the story there. And then, and that was long before all this stuff ever happened. So as for a history of the dog getting out, yes, that's there. I mean, we've got a track record for that. And I believe that was before Princess had her puppies. I think that's when Princess was pre-mom. I believe, because it was just Princess running around. And then Princess had her litter, and then had the cute little puppies and everything. And then the puppies went to other homes, but they kept King. So there's that. Okay. All right. Back to the story. Okay. A vicious dog attacking people. Terrible. And so that's why I don't know. That's why I couldn't. The dog was just, I took it as the dog was playing. That's how I saw it. I mean, I got 2 cats now. I mean, they like to pretend they're ferocious kitty cats, and they will. They run in the bedroom and they jump on me and they bite me and they run away, because that's their way of saying play with me, and that's what they're doing. They're being ferocious kitties at the moment, because in reality they're really loving kitties. They just don't want the world to see that. They don't want anybody catching on that they actually have a softer side. They want everybody to take them serious, thinking they're ferocious. Rawr. And they'll bite you. Rawr. But that's how I saw it. With Princess is that, she's just playing ferocious dog and she wanted to play. And that's what she was doing, was nudging me to play. So anyhow, the dog got out, got over to the Labrador, which is a couple houses up from me. And then that neighbor had to take the dog to the vet. Now that neighbor actually dropped charges and everything. The dog survived. The dog's still alive. Now, granted, the medical bills and everything else to keep the dog alive, I'm sure, were just staggering, but they went ahead and dropped their charges. So the neighbors were depending on Miss Castleberry or Mrs. Castleberry to press charges against Flanagan to do something about this dog, because everybody was saying, that this dog has been roaming the neighborhood and being vicious and terrorizing the neighborhood and stuff. And one, according to Mrs. Castleberry, was saying that one neighbor said that they, had their kids outside and then their kids got pinned in, and then, they had to, they couldn't get in the house because the dogs were there and the dogs were keeping them from getting into the house, and, the parents were doing what they could. And then finally the dogs went away and they, the kids got in the house and, all this stuff was avoided. Whew. Very scary stuff. So she thought about it. She prayed about it. And then she finally came to a decision that, yeah, she needs to press charges. She didn't want to, but she figured, for the neighborhood and for everybody that, had been terrorized by these dogs, something needs to be done. So, her husband got up there, Gerald Castleberry, who happens to be married to Connie. He was talking about, same thing that she was talking about. And as far as he knew of the dogs, what would happen is they would go, to, oh shoot. Now I can't think of the name of that town. It's just south of here. Elliott. That's what I'm thinking of. Elliott. So voluntarily the dogs went to Elliott. Okay. So they're over there with a friend or whatever, and then Flanagan's got to get this pen set up and everything. And then once the pen has been established and it's to the satisfactory of animal control and the city's satisfied and everything, the dogs can come back and reside in the pen. Everything's good. Supposedly, they got the pen, put it together. It wasn't the best quality. And then the dogs got out again. And then when they did, well, they went back to Elliott. And then another reset. So finally, the city took possession of the dogs and have them, I guess, at a undisclosed location or something. I don't know if they're over at the pound over there off a Country Club Road, or if they're like at some super secret place, where nobody will ever find them. So that way they can't be jailbroke. So the city's got possession of the dogs. And so they've been hanging on to the dogs since this last incident happened. And then, of course, went to court back in March and then pleaded not guilty. And so the city still has possession of the dogs. And that's where they're at right now. So during closing arguments and stuff, the defendant, Flanagan, was saying that she did what she was supposed to do to get the dogs legal. She understands the dogs did what they did. And apologized for that, and was just horrified, and didn't really wish that didn't happen. I mean, I don't see any dog owner out there, who would be like, yeah, you got what you got coming, yeah, it's my dog, yeah. No, I don't see that. I don't think anybody would. Well, I don't know. This day and age, man, there's some pretty demented people out there. I say that, but then, that's when we start seeing headlines showing up in the paper about, oh, man, that dude just proved me wrong. Anyhow, she's very apologetic and very sympathetic, and she did what she thought she was supposed to do. And then that's when Pinson came out and brought all this other paperwork and stuff about what needed to be done. And she was going through some of the evidence that was presented. And some of it she didn't understand because she couldn't really see what was going on there, like damage to the floor. She's saying, I can't see this. I mean, I don't know what this is. How do I even know this is dog damage to the floor? And then there's another picture of two dogs, and I just kind of saw it from a distance, but she was saying that's not Princess and King. And she understands that the neighborhood's upset and everything. And then, oh my gosh. And then she says, the family's been, really struggling with this. Flanagan's is talking about her family has been really struggling with this, and it's been very stressful and everything, and especially with this being, as she put it, blasted out over the radio. And then I hear a snicker behind me. It's Bradley Gill, over at the Camden News, the newspaper dude. He's sitting behind me doing his version of this, and typically. The newspaper gets blasted because, everything was fine till the newspaper put it in print. And then the newspaper said that I did not say that. Newspaper said I said all this stuff, and that's not what I said. And then, some things go down, some allegations are made, or actually some accusations are made. And then next thing you know, there's a federal case, and the newspaper is getting tapped for a subpoena to, hey, you need to turn over all your evidence. Radio, in the meantime, is just trucking along, playing music and stuff. And hey, some things happen in your neighborhood. Here's what happened. And so usually they go after the paper. This time they came after radio. And that's why Bradley was kind of like snickering. It's like, it's usually us, but they got you. So anyhow, hey, we're just doing our job. This, everything that I reported about this back in the beginning, I read directly from the incident report. And do I still have that incident report? Oh no, that's the other one about that's not my weed. It's in that's not my weed. My weed is in the other vehicle. Yeah, see, I get these incident reports, and in these incident reports, the officers go, these are the accounts from the officers that were involved there. Oh, that was a good story I was going to do too. That's not my weed. That involved Officer Tyson too. That was a good story. Anyhow, I get these incident reports, and so depending on if there's a minor involved or something like that, we will cut them up, chop them up, whatever it is that we need to do to get it on the air. And then, we edit it down for airtime and everything. And that's what we do, because we're telling you, here's what happened in your neighborhood. Here's what's going on. So if you saw a bunch of cop cars out there, here's why. And especially the one that happened down here at the bottom of the hill on Fairview, when there were just cop cars everywhere. You're looking at stadies and locals, and you're like, what in the world's going on over here? And they're swarmed all over this vehicle. And then come to find out, the person that was in the vehicle was deceased. And not only that person who was in the vehicle, I knew. See what I mean? I try so hard not to get involved with my stories that I'm telling you, but living in a small town of less than 10,000 people, it's a lot harder to do than it was when I was living in a town of 6 million people, and I was just a small fry that was roaming around among 6 million people. But anyhow, that's how we get these stories. It's through the incident report that comes out from the police department. So any of that, and fire department releases them too. So anything like that, except for medical, we won't do medical because that reveals way too much. That gets too personal. So when things like this happen, you're trying to figure out what's going on. And the paper does the same thing, but the paper steps it up a notch. They have a police radio scanner, so they can hear what's going on as it gets dispatched out. In fact, the other day we had an accident happen right here in front of the radio station, and I called it in. So I was talking to dispatch, and I told them, hey, I got a 2-car accident out here, and somebody's requested an ambulance, and they want an ambulance. So make an ambulance come. And they said, okay, then we'll make an ambulance come. And they did. Whoop. And there's an ambulance. And we're like, whoa, hey, look at that. And fast service too. Fire truck showed up. County's out there. City's out there. Everybody's out there working this accident. And then Michael over at the paper, the new sports guy, he comes out with the camera and everything to see what's going on because he heard it on the radio scanner. I don't have a radio scanner. I have to wait till it comes out in print with the incident report. So that's how, I mean, we don't mean to blast everything over the radio, but we've had a lot of phone calls where people are like, how come you're putting this stuff out on the air? And it's like, it's public information, it's news, and people want to know what's going on in their neighborhood. And so that's what we do as a news station is we get the news out there. That's what we do. Anyhow, got to take this break. We'll wrap this thing up with a very weird ending. Right after this, News Talk 92 KBEU. News Talk 92 KBEU, the news and talk of South Arkansas. Got them big doggy blues. What we gonna do with these dogs? Oh yeah. 30 days in jail, 30 nights of singing the blues. So, just before the break, we were explaining how Flanagan was talking about how this has been really hard, the whole thing and everything. And of course, I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, you're talking about, you got these dogs that you love, Princess and King. I mean, they're somebody's beloved family member. I mean, who doesn't have a pet that doesn't feel like it's part of their family? And you're very emotionally attached and invested into this animal. And to you, it's more than just an animal. And I'm sure to Miss Flanagan and her son, Princess and King is more than just, two dogs running the neighborhood or two dogs sitting in somebody's backyard. It's, these are family members. And so she's talking about how all of this has just been extremely stressful on the family. And, we're talking about everything from, finding out that your dogs escaped and then did some horrible things to some other people because you're responsible for that. And not only are you responsible for that, but, also, that's, on you and that's, you grieve too. And so with that, that just everything from the start of, learning of what happened and then realizing what happened and then dealing with their loss and then, trying to sympathize with them for their loss. And then you have to realize that now you've got some things that you've got to do. And, you get overwhelmed and you don't know where to start. You don't know what needs to be done next. And I mean, I've been there too. It could be very, overwhelming. And especially when you start looking at dollar signs and stuff, you're like, oh my gosh, cause now we have to do this and that and that and that and this. And if we want to keep the dogs, we need to do that. And it's, the price tag starts getting really big. And even that could be, overwhelming as well. Cause you want to do what you need to do to be able to keep your family members there at the house with you and everything. But the thing is though, is that, man, especially if you're on a tight budget income or something like that, it can definitely be very overwhelming. I mean, you got some dogs and you thought it'd be really simple. You take them to the vet. You get them looked at. You make sure that they have their annual, checkup and everything and get the proper shots that they need. That's going to cost you some money. You got to feed them, which is going to cost you more than anything else. Cause man, can dogs put it away. And then, of course, you got your chew toys and everything else that you got to pay for. So, I mean, there's some expenses that are coming when it comes to being a dog owner. On the other hand, though, once nobody sits there and thinks, they don't wake up in the morning going, I wonder what my dogs can get into today. Let's just open a gate and just see what they can do. Nobody does that. So when you start your day, you do probably the same thing I do. Go check on your animals, make sure they got fresh water and food and everything. Cause that's what I did this morning. I made sure the cats had their food because if they don't, they'll let me know. They won't let me leave the house until they got their food. But I make sure everybody's got fresh water. And I dump out Sandy's thing of water in the backyard because overnight it gets nasty. All the bugs and stuff fall in there. And, make sure she's got fresh, cool water to start her day. And, I go through my regimen that I do every morning when it comes to me getting ready for work and dealing with my pets as well. And yes, to me, they're family members too. So, I mean, I can only imagine, the overwhelming feeling that's coming over Miss Flanagan and, the feeling of being attacked. Let's put it that way. I mean, I'm not trying to, say take pity on her or anything. I'm just saying, try and see it from her eyes that, how stressful it can be. And especially, here we are having this conversation on air as well and what that means. But yeah, I mean, you feel like you're being attacked because, everybody's coming at you from different directions now. And so even with that can be overwhelming and you get to a point to where you just kind of shut down because it's coming at you so fast. You just can't react to it fast enough to be able to get it resolved. So I can relate to that, boy, especially when it comes to family court. Oh boy. And you get forced pro se. You spend $3,000 on an attorney and the court's looking at you with your attorney going, you don't get an attorney today. What do you mean? Sit down. Okay. So anyhow, what happened was we're looking at fines of $2,150. Fines. That's just for breaking the ordinances. That's what that comes down to. That's not including the pound fees for where the dogs are at right now. As of yesterday, that is at $3.78, and that is $5 for each dog first day, and then $3 for each dog each day after. So far, that's totaled up to $378. Not to mention the fines alone for $2,150. Now, that's a big chunk of money right there. And the threat or the fear of the dogs being destroyed. So some talk came up and some compromises were made, and a solution was already found. Now, Flanagan's son, whose name I cannot remember, doggone it. He has a friend out in Harmony Grove, and he's got a bunch of dogs out there in Harmony Grove, and they hog hunt. So they use the dogs to go find feral hogs and hunt them down. And Animal Control Officer Jennifer Pinson was saying that pit bulls are actually kind of bred for this. This is what they do. And if you're not familiar with breeds and dogs and things like that and classes and stuff, actually dogs break down into different classes, of course, with their different breed, and they have different things that they do. You wouldn't think it, but corgis, like the Queen's corgis, those little short-legged dogs, short-furred and everything, and they're about yay long. They herd cattle. Yeah, big cows, big moo cows, moo. And those little bitty dogs can herd. They're a working class, and that's what they do. So, and same thing, when you think of an Australian Shepherd, what do you think of? You think of them usually herding sheep. They're a working class dog. So that's what they do, is they herd. And then, you got the other dogs that hunt, and then there's other dogs that will track. You got dogs for different things. But that's what they do based on their breed. And that's what Jennifer was saying, is that, the pit bulls, they're actually they're wired that way to hunt. I got to take this break. Top of the hour news and more. News Talk 92 KBEU. News Talk 92 KBEU, the news and talk of South Arkansas. Here we are, top of the hour, baby. 7 o'clock. Roundtable up next. We should have Dr. Jared Smith coming in here on your Thursday, because it's Thursday. So that's what we do on Thursdays, is we have the doctor come in and talk about doctor stuff. Of course, your questions as well. You can send those in. If you want to send them in anonymously, you can. 501-313-0944. So that way nobody knows it's you asking the question except you. Unless you tell us it's you. That's the only way we're going to know it's you. And don't forget about the podcast. Download the podcast as well. You can find it up there on Facebook. You can find it on Spreaker, iHeart, Google Podcast, Apple, and some other Spotify too, and your other favorite podcast platforms as well. So those are out there. And be sure to spread the word there, because we're on at 6, but our biggest time that people seem to come in and listen to the show is after 5 in the afternoon. It's crazy. So that's when and we are not doing this show at 5 in the afternoon. I got other things to be doing, so we'll just have to settle with 6. So anyhow, let's see. We were in our closing arguments and stuff about what was going on and what we were going to do about these dogs here and everything. And so, of course, the plaintiffs, they made their closing argument as well, saying that, that they want some stuff done here. Oh, that was the other thing, too. The plaintiffs were also looking for restitution. So they came up with some items and stuff that were damaged. Of course, you got the back door, you got the doggy door, you got the trim and everything else. That needed to be replaced, and they've got an estimate on that. And then you got furniture, ottoman, glass table, and then you've got the flooring and all this other stuff that needs to be replaced. And they had estimates on that. So what Judge Hill said was that, because we're dealing with an ordinance here, not a state statute, that he's not within jurisdiction or within his authority or his authority to be able to rule over damages. Now, he can rule over what's going on here when it's in relation to the ordinance. And that's exactly what he did, was basically saying that, well, guess what? you've got a fine of $2,150 that you owe for the ordinances. And then, of course, for each day the dogs are in jail, right now you're at $378 in pound fees, and that's adding on $3 per day per dog. So, of course, that will grow. And all these need to be paid before you can take possession of the puppy dogs of Princess and King. But thing is, though, nobody's going to be taking possession of anything because these dogs are going to be destroyed. What? Well, here's the deal. So Flanagan's son came up and said he got a friend, and he's got these dogs out there, and this is what he does with them. They go out there and they hunt feral hogs. And then that's when Animal Control Officer Jennifer Pence was like, yeah, I mean, it's better than what's on the table right now with his, euthanizing them. But everybody was like, you know what? We might go for that. We might just go for that. That way, everybody wins. The dogs don't get destroyed. Princess and King get to live a long life. And who knows, if they're doing what they love, what they're wired to do, they're programmed to do, they may just forget about, being dogs in Camden and everything and want to go keep chasing hogs. So what it came down to is that so we figured out, the judge has no authority or anything to be able to deal with restitution for damages. So let's move on with the dogs and what we're going to do with them. So, passing it around the room, Judge Hill asked, the prosecution, how do you feel about that? Prosecution like, I guess, looked at the cast of bears, what do you think? And they're like, I guess, okay. And then when I looked at Jennifer Officer, or Animal Control Officer Jennifer Penson, kind of threw it out there, and she said, well, I'm kind of torn. I mean, I don't want the dogs destroyed, but at the same time, I'm kind of leery about, just letting these dogs loose out in Harmony Grove. Well, not really letting them loose, but... So she said, you know what? I tell you what. Microchip the dogs and alter the dogs, which alter means to spay or neuter, depending on which one is needed. Because you can't spay and neuter one dog. I mean, it's impossible. It's going to be one or the other. So they get altered. So that means that Princess, which is a lady dog, will get neutered. Or spayed. Is it spayed? Spayed. Yeah, spayed. We'll get spayed. I had to think about it. Okay. And then I'm assuming King is a boy, so he'll get neutered. And then microchipped, and then that way they can track the dogs. Let the dogs go do their thing in Harmony Grove, go out there and chase around a bunch of feral hogs, and live that happy life. So, when you say, well, they went to the farm where they can live a long, happy life chasing, running, and, now, instead of, it being a fairy tale, it looks like it may come true. So it looks like everybody was in agreement with that and okay with that. But there's a catch. Always a catch. Here's the thing. The fines still have to be paid. Oh, no. I'm sorry. I take that back. Scratch that. Scratch what I said. Retract that statement. Objection. As long as this is done within 30 days, then the only thing that Flanagan's responsible for is the pound fee, which right now, or as of yesterday, was at $378. So that's $378 plus $3 per day per dog. So right now it'd be at $382. So today would be $382. So as each day goes by, this fee will keep going up and eventually encroach on $400. The fines will be suspended. So the $2,150 goes away. All they've got to worry about is paying the pound fee. Then the dogs will be transferred directly from the pound to their new home out in Harmony Grove. All this has to be done in 30 days. If it goes 31 days, the fines for $2,150 come back. The pound fees will still have to be owed, and the dogs are destroyed. So that means that's the end of the line there for Princess and King. If it's not done within 30 days. So there's that. Everything gets done, fines are lifted, pay the pound fee, the dogs move on. They're chasing hogs for the rest of their life. Living that happy life. So that's the outcome of that. Quite surprising. So now when it comes to dealing with damages and stuff, now we have to move on to the next step of that. It's very simple. They can either deal with that out of court. They can work something on their own. Worst case scenario, depending on the amount of damages that are done, they could go to small claims court, which if they do, that means there will be no attorneys involved whatsoever. Just think of it as like watching Judge Judy or, People's Court and what have you. You know how it works out there. Yeah, see, there you go. It's People's Court. Not Quorum Court this time, because it's on TV. But yeah, you get the gist of it. You go in there, it's you, your witnesses, or whatever it is that you're going to bring with you, and you go before a judge. Usually, I don't know about here, but where I'm from, usually you go before a justice of the peace. JPs are actually judges where I come from, whereas instead of being representatives, but they do judgy stuff too over back in Texas. But anyhow, that's what you do is you go before JP. Here it's going to be a little different though, but still same thing. Certain amount, under that amount, and no attorneys whatsoever. Yeah, you don't take matters into your own hands. You take them to court. Yeah. But anyhow, that's how that works. So that would be small claims court. Just think of like People's Court, Judge Judy or something like that. You go in there, you say, yeah, but I got pictures, man. And look, I got these receipts and stuff. And then I got all this. And then I got these recordings. And they said they were going to do this and that. And they didn't. And then I'm glad. And then I want some money. Whatever it is that you got to do to get your restitution. Then you've got civil court. That's where the big dogs come in. Pardon the pun. Yeah, that's where you got your attorneys. You could go before a jury trial. All kinds of options there. But typically, if it's under a certain amount, they're going to throw you back into small claims court. So, one step for when it comes to dealing with the damages is either they could do it themselves, work it out on their own, and come up with a plan, or they'll probably end up in small claims court, or if it's beyond that amount. Or if there's a lot more involved, there's a lot more working parts, they could end up in civil court. Or what they could do is, and I talked with a friend about this who sells insurance. And this is just speculation, though, but these are some possibilities. What could happen is the victim, the Castleberrys, they could file this on their homeowner's insurance, so that way they get everything fixed. They get the door fixed, they get all the other stuff fixed. That way they get put back to where they kind of were, so that way that's taken care of. Then the insurance company, their insurance company, will start looking around going, all right, who owes us this money? Somebody owes us money. And they'll go sniffing around, and then they'll go back over to the Flanagans and they'll say, hey, you know what, we took care of our client here, and we made sure that they were put back to where they were, before, all this stuff happened and everything. And, we're looking for some restitution ourselves, But typically is what they would do, because the Flanagans should also have homeowners insurance. I mean, if you're making house payments, put it this way. Because if you're like, I wonder if I have homeowners insurance. If you make house payments on your house, you pay a bank, trust me, you got homeowners insurance. It's part of the requirement to have the loan. And if you fail to maintain homeowners insurance, the bank will put homeowners insurance on there and charge you a hefty fee for them having their insurance on your home. But you will have homeowners insurance. Now, if you paid cash, you don't have a loan or anything like that, you're not dealing with a bank, you own the house outright, then that's your choice. You can have homeowners insurance or you could not. But if you have an outstanding loan on the house, you're going to have homeowners insurance. So then is what would happen is that the Castleberry's insurance company will go after the Flanagans and say, hey, oh, you got insurance? And then they'll go talk to their insurance company. So the insurance companies will duke it out. That's what you pay them for. That's that premium you pay every month is for them to deal with it. Just kind of keep that in mind. So let them deal with it. They'll deal with their stuff, and you two go on about your day. Now, the other thing is, too, is that there's usually a clause in there somewhere about dog breeds, because I remember dealing with this when I owned a house, because they were asking me questions about, you got a dog? No. You thinking about buying a dog? I was. What kind of dog you gonna get? Thinking about a German Shepherd? No German Shepherd for you. Why not? They're vicious. What? I was like, wait, I was born and raised. I was raised with a German Shepherd. The dog was awesome, especially with me being, as far as I can remember, 2 years old. What do you mean, vicious dog? You're not getting a dog. And the insurance company can do that. They can say, and if you go like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to go get me a dog anyways. And the insurance company like, that's fine. You go get your dog because guess what? We ain't covering you. And then they move on. But if you got a policy and later on you got a dog or something like that, it is possible that the insurance company could sit there and say, you know what, they signed off on this. There's a clause in there. No type. These breeds are not allowed in the house or on the property, and we will not cover anything that happens to the house, property, or whatever. Should any of these breeds show up on the property, we're not going to deal with it. That's a possibility as well, which means then the insurance company is going after Flanagan's directly instead of, insurance to insurance. It's insurance to individual. There's just some possibilities that could play out. But hopefully, what anybody would like to see is that, there's some stuff happened, some things got broken, and, a pet life was lost. But hopefully, homeowners insurance will cover it. You pay the premium and let the insurance company take care of the rest, and then that way we stay out of court. That would be the perfect idea. Because, if you're dealing with it yourself, which is also good, that would be the ideal way of doing it, too. The thing is, though, is that, if you're having to pay for it out of pocket, who's got, $5,000 just laying around or $10,000 or whatever that they could just take, cough up and go, okay, here, let me just write this check here and we'll get that taken care of. So hopefully they'll be able to resolve all that and they'll be able to go insurance to insurance, and that way, it's a happy ending for everybody. The dogs will be, Princess and King will be over in Harmony Grove chasing feral hogs, doing what they're bred to do. And hopefully they'll be happy and living out the rest of their lives. And poor King, come on, man. 7 months old, really? Nobody wants to see a pup like that get put down. Poor King, he don't know what's going on either. He's just a dog. He does dog stuff. He just does what dogs are supposed to do. And he doesn't understand. So, I'd hate to see that too. A little puppy dog get put down like that. It's hard enough having to do it when your dog is in bad shape, unhealthy, and terminal. And, the vet looks at you and says there's really nothing else we could do. And the only thing we really can do is, euthanize your pet because, from here out, they're just going to be suffering and that's just cruel and not good for the dog. And so you got to make your goodbyes and everything. Even under a situation like that where, the vet is just saying, you know what, it's time to say goodbye. The dog's lived a really good life and everything, and it's just time to say goodbye and do the right thing. And that's hard too, man. I've had to do that, and it's just not easy. So even when it comes to, a court order, somebody telling you, hey, you got to destroy your dogs, versus, a vet saying the best thing to do, they've lived a good life, it's hard either way. When you've got to do that, it's just hard either way. All right, man, we have got the roundtable up next, and we got Dr. Jarrett in the hot seat today, too, as well. Stick around, more to come. News Talk 92, KBEU.